No, I just wanted to start by publicly saying on behalf of our staff and the team how much we feel what's happened today, and I think it wouldn't be right for me to stand up here and not acknowledge that here. So I think it puts into perspective what's just happened for 90 minutes there, and our hearts are certainly going out to everyone involved there, and I know the players each to a man would echo that. So I wanted to make that clear from our perspective that has been felt today.
How do you look at the game tonight?
I think it's in keeping with perhaps what you'd expect of that first game in June when the internationals have gone away, and there are two teams that are out of their rhythm, us as and certainly as well as them, in the sense that you felt in the opening stages and really well evidenced by the opening couple of goals that there was some lack of connection between the players on the team. There were players that are out of their rhythm, and I felt at half-time that we could well have capitalised on that, and I did feel at half-time that we had control of the game in our way of having control of the game, and I felt like we had a really good chance in the second half of coming out and winning it, and obviously that's not been the case, and the goals are really disappointing, the ones we've conceded, because I feel like in general play we haven't given an awful lot away, and of course we're going to look back at an element of individual error, but also the team as a whole will be really disappointed with how we've conceded those goals. Elements of the performance were really pleasing, and I think we did what we typically did. We did what we typically do out of possession. We were very tight, very disciplined, very hard to break down, and we showed some real quality on the ball, not least in the build up to the second goal of ours, and that was backed up by a couple of other moments. So I felt like there was certainly enough for us to grab onto and take forward, but I think the manner of it, the chaotic manner of it, was disappointing for us, and I think the fact that we've lost it, certainly in the way in which we lost it toward the end, it was a tough one to swallow.
What do you put your finger on as far as the learning moments for Wessel?
Yeah, this was always going to be a baptism of fire, and I think we've prepared Wessel as well as we possibly could have done from the perspective of softly integrated through second team games and cup games, and he had some good moments today, no question. He showed what he can be at his best, but of course I don't think anyone would say that he was without fault, and I'm sure he'll be really disappointed in a couple of the moments, but I think that's symptomatic of a goalkeeper being on this stage for the first time and playing against a good team that certainly hurt us in a number of ways. So it'll be one for him to really reflect on and get some support around from the staff, and fingers crossed he really learns from it, because as I said to you guys in the build up to this, he's got some attributes for sure, and he's someone that we really want to look after and help nurture, and tonight it's a step toward that.
I know you've been focused on this June period and trying to get prepared for not having what happened last year happen this year. Does it feel like everything's going wrong again after that one?
No, I mean we're able to lose games. It hasn't happened often this year, but the world certainly won't be caving in because we've lost a game, and we've lost a game to a good team. We've lost a game to a team that's at the top of the table for a reason. So I'm certainly not going to 360 the way in which I view this season or the way in which I view the group. I think we're in a really good place. I will look at it, of course, in a very balanced way, and I'll take forward what I felt we did well, and I'll certainly take the seeds of what I think is an evolving picture with certain phases of our game, and I think you've seen us do some things tonight that we haven't done well enough over the course of the first 17 games. So I will look at it as always in a very constructive way, and I'll certainly make sure the group stays level, and that was the closing message to them today. We go into 5 days off really disappointed, and we will, as we do as good professionals, really reflect and pick apart the detail, but ultimately we've had a really good first half to the year, and I know that there's a really good base for us to build on.
Is there any commonality that you see in those last 2 goals conceded?
No, I mean the very last goal comes as a consequence of us really trying to force something on the top of the box and then not managing the transition well enough, not being ruthless enough in making contact in the opposition's half. I would say disappointed with how we closed that game out, because I felt like where there was an extra pass to play, we didn't play the extra pass. We forced the ball into the middle far too often and didn't get the clean-cut chances that we needed to finish the game. So I think that was really disappointing. For sure, the third goal where Dreyer cuts in onto his left foot it's a disappointing one for us to concede, because if you watch San Diego over the course of 17 games, you know full well that's a chance that they're inevitably going to create through the quality of player that he is, and we've not defended that moment well enough in any way. So this is where I pick up on the point around being really disappointed with the nature of the goals, because I think each of them, certainly not predictable in the case of the first two, but each of them in their own way very avoidable, which is of course disappointing, because it's not normal of us to find ourselves in this position.
Seemed like there were a lot of moments with San Diego players making runs through the middle and long balls over the top, finding him. What do you sort of chalk that up to something going wrong there?
No, I felt like in the first half we did make some errors as to when we jumped out the back line, and the decision making of particularly the three centre backs. Obviously they're placed in a position more often than not where they have to make really good quality decisions as to when to step out, when to not, when to protect the space in behind. And I feel like there were a couple of moments where we suffered in that sense. It's to be expected with the nature of the players that they've got that play in the middle of the pitch. They're very good off one touch, very good off very little backlift in playing the ball over the top. And it was something we talked about at half time, and I didn't think it repeated itself in the second half in exactly the same way, but certainly the third goal would be one that we'd look at as entirely avoidable and not very us in that sense. I think typically we defend the box really well with real discipline, and we've missed a runner, we've not dropped quick enough, and I know Jeff Boxey will be very disappointed for that one.
Did you feel like there was a lack of communication or miscommunication between the back line and Wessel?
Quite possibly. I mean, that would have to come from the players as to how they felt there. But I think, as I say, I sort of speak to the difficulty of that situation for Wessel going into a game where, again, nature of playing against San Diego, one of the top teams in the league, we are going to have to suffer a little bit. We're going to be under pressure, and I think that relationship was really magnified today. And obviously, if Dane's there and he's in the rhythm of playing with that back line over the course of a load of games up until this point, of course it's going to be cleaner, and I think it would have been quite frankly miraculous had we come through that completely unscathed. Unfortunately tonight it was magnified to the point where it became damaging for us, but as I say, we will look at it really constructively, and I know full well that Wessel has the ingredients to be a really good goalkeeper, and we'll certainly support him around that.
You've had a couple of home games against the two top teams in the West with Vancouver and San Diego where they were missing a bunch of players, and both times have not been able to take advantage of those opportunities. Does it feel sort of frustrating or like opportunities missed there?
I think this one's different to the Vancouver one in the sense that it's fairly even in terms of us also missing a number of players. I don't think it's quite as stark as the Vancouver game. And again, I'll reiterate, we're playing against a really good team. We cannot expect to be almost as comfortable as we've been over the course of the first 17 games and feel like we're untouchable. We are going to lose games, and when we lose games we've got to respond in the right way, and I feel like generally we handle these situations really well. We're very level, balanced, and the players are the same, but of course we are very disappointed with those two home games, because where we wanted to make a big statement as to how we can approach the second half of the year and what the realistic expectations are against both Vancouver and those guys today, we haven't been able to do so. But having said that, we've done that away from home so far, which is obviously really pleasing, and that's why I think if you take this first 18 games as a whole, going into what feels like a bit of a mid-season split now, we're really happy. So I'm not going to let this result let anyone's worlds cave in any way.
Which individual performances did you like tonight?
I think there were, to be honest, there were shades up until 70 minutes of some real positives from most players, and I think the decision to take Bongi off at that point for Rob wasn't an easy one, in the sense that I think everyone had a reasonable amount of momentum at that point, and everyone had a couple of good moments on the transition. I think we looked particularly dangerous at that point. So up until that point, I would say everyone has a reasonable amount of credit, and you look to someone like Owen as an example, who I felt was really strong, particularly in that stage of the game, who's really grown over the course of the last three, and someone that I look at for the second half of the season as being a really big contributor, and we were really pleased with him in that sense. I think for sure Kelvin will be he'll be very satisfied with the fact that he's been able to get himself on the score sheet, and I think physically he's taken a step forward tonight, which is really pleasing. So those two would be probably first off in terms of making a tangible step forward in some sense. So but as much as it feels like we're very frustrated and very disappointed with the nature of the game, I think when you look back at it, there will be some stuff that we can really latch onto across all players, and we'll certainly do that.
Obviously, this is Wessels' rookie year. How do you keep a performance like that one from sort of torpedoing the rest of his season?
No, we handle it in the way that you handle these situations with young players in general. You deal with it really constructively, and I think he knows the level of confidence that the staff have in him. It's very obvious the raw ingredients that he has as a goalkeeper that can stand him in good stead as he moves forward, and we have to hold the mirror up for sure, because that's the nature of coaching, but you also have to really support the player in that sense. I think we've got a really good staff there, and they will strike that balance between real challenge and real support for him as we move forward. And it's also it's a good environment when it comes to the other goalkeepers that are in that group, and I think that's also a really important thing. So it will be being constructive, taking the positives, and moving on as we do in with every player who finds himself in that situation, but with the team in general too. Good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.